Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayamudare Staptaya Shavam Nityam Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavajnaisti Mukam Karodi Vachalam Pandum Nande Vande Hey Gurun Dinahan Paramanandamam Namo Pankajanaభాయ Namo Pankajamani Namo Pankajanetraya Namo Namaste Pankajandri Rayena Alpaishu Sabya Kalo Asmin Yugejana Mandasamandamadayo Mandabhagyo Padruka. Welcome to the Bagavatam session, Canto 11, Chapter 3, verse number 5. Liberation from the illusory energy. I'll recite the verse number 5, 11:3-5. Gunair gunansa bunjana atma pradoyiti tai prabhuha manyamana idam sristam atmanamiha sajjate. Synonyms: Gunai with the modes, the senses; Gunan, the modes, the objects of the senses; Sa, he, the individual living being; Bunjanaha, enjoying; Atma, by the supreme soul; Prado ititai, enlivened; Prabhu, the master; Manya manaha, thinking; Idam, this; Srishtam, created body; Atmanam, as his own self; Iha, in this; Sajjate, he becomes entangled. Translation purport given by Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. The individual living being, the master of the material body, uses his material senses, which have been activated by the super soul, to try to enjoy the sense objects composed of the three modes of nature. Thus, he misidentifies the created material body with the unborn eternal self and becomes entangled in the illusory energy of the Lord. But in this verse, the living entity is called Prabhu or Master because he is minute part and parcel of the Supreme Master, Krishna. Similarly, in Bhagavad Gita 15:8, the Lord has described the living entity as Ishvaraha, the controller. Shariram yat avapnoti yat chapi utkramatishvara matishvaraha utkramatishvaraha griti vaitani samyati vayur gandhan ivashyat. The living entity in the material world carries the various conceptions of life from one body to another, as air carries aromas. Srila Prabhupada has commented in his purport. Here the living entity is described as Ishvaraha, the controller of his own body. If he likes, he can change his body to higher grade, or if he likes, he can move to a lower class. Minute independence is there. The change his body undergoes depends upon him. So this statement confirms that words Swamatra and Atma Prasiddhaya in the text 3 of this chapter. If the Supreme Lord were to interfere with the minute independence of the living entity, there would be no question of the living entities engaging in the loving service of the Lord, since love implies a spontaneous free choice by the lover. Here the word Prabhu indicates that just as a child having received a toy car from his father pedals on the side and on the sidewalk, imitating the father who drives an actual car. So the living entity pedals around the material universe in the innumerable material bodies selected for him by Supreme Lord from the assortment of 84 lakh species. Thus, the living entity, infatuated with the false ego of the material body, creates fearful situation in which he undergoes repeated birth and death, as described in the statement Bhayam Diti Abhiniveshataha, Bagavatam 11-37. Srila Jiva Goswami has given another explanation for this verse. If the word Prabhu is taken to mean the Supreme Lord, the word Gunai can be understood to mean good qualities. Since Guna can refer to material mode of nature or to admirable qualities, as in the verse Yashyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana Sarvair Gunais Tatra Samasate Suraha. Samshate Suraha. This verse would then mean that Lord, by His transcendental qualities, Gunai, such as mercy, is able to relish transcendental qualities, Gunan, of His pure devotees. Atma Pratyoditai would then indicate that by surrendering unto the Lord, who is a reservoir of all good qualities, the pure devotees become similarly endowed with godly qualities. The words Manaya, Manyamana Idam Shrishtam Atmanam would indicate that the Lord accepts the body of His pure devotee to be on the same spiritual level as He Himself, as indicated in the verse Acharyamam Vijaniyan Navamanyata Kachit. The Lord is attracted by the loving devotion service of His pure devotees and thus becomes entangled in the network of a living relationship with Him. For example, after the battle of Kurukshetra, when Krishna was leaving his own city, Dwaraka, the loving appeal of Maharaj Yudhishthira forced the Lord to remain for several more weeks in Hastinapur. Similarly, when the elderly gopis of Vrindavan clapped with their hands, Krishna would dance like a puppet, keeping a time to the rhythm. In relation to this subject matter, Srila Jiva Goswami has quoted the verse from Srimad Bagavatam 9.468. Sadhavo hrudayam mahyam, sadhunam hrudayam tvaham, madanyat te na janati naham tebhyo managapi. The pure devotee is always within the core of my heart, and I am always in the heart of my pure devotee. My devotees do not know anything but me, and I do not know anything but them. According to Srila Jiva Vishnath Chakravarti Thakur, the word Prabhu may also be understood as follows. The word pra indicates the prakarshena or excessively, and bhu means bhavati or taking birth. Thus, Prabhu indicates prakarshena deva Tiryagadishu Bhavatitisa, are repeatedly taking birth among the demigods, animals, human beings, and other forms of life. Confirmed in the statement by Srila Jiva Goswami concerning the Lord's attachment to the spiritualized body of a pure devotee, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur has quoted the following verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Diksha Kale Bhakta Kare Atma Samarpana Se Kale Krishna Tare Kare Atma Sama. At the time of initiation, when a devotee fully surrenders unto the service of the Lord, Krishna accepts him to be as good as himself. Se deha kare tara chidananda maya aprakruta dehe tanra charana bhajaya. When the devotee's body is thus transformed into spiritual existence, devotee is that transcendental body renders service to the lotus feet of the Lord. Om Agnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kalamatyam Dadati Sapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So this verse elaborately discusses about the living entity. So the living entity has given certain freedom, a partial freedom. Like Prabhupada always quotes the example of a cow which is tied to one post and given some radius of meters, say 5 meters or 10 meters. So only within that radius of 10 meters the cow can roam around. And if the cow follows his master or his Prabhu according to the independence given to that particular cow, if it tries to please his master, then the due course of time the master will expand the radius of the size or the place to that particular cow, so that again if the cow tries to please his master and not disobeying the master but obeying the master uh, as prescribed by him. um, so the cows keep on and the master seeing the feedback or seeing the sincerity and the seriousness of a particular cow which is obeying very loyally to his master, then um, gradually, or as I mean to say, naturally, any master, if he is fully satisfied with his servant or his subordinate, then he leaves the particular servant or subordinate freely, very liberally. So in due course of time, the cow, the rope tied to the cow has been released, and because the master comes to know that even though the rope is not tied to the cow, this cow is very obedient and loyal to me, so that he may not overrule me, or he may not disobey me, or he will not betray me in any angle of his life, in any angle of his movements. So the master will free, after some couple of years or couple of time, the master frees the cow, and the cow tries to please or tries to satisfy the master, and he will never be disobeying the norms given by or protocol given by his master. Similarly, the living entity also, all the living entities are given some independence or partial independence. In Sanskrit, it is called Svecha or Swatantra. So, if the living entities, if the living entity utilizes that particular partial independence according to his own whims and desires, then the material nature, which is also a potency of Krishna, will bind him then and there itself. Rather, if the living entity tries to follows the norms or protocol given by his master or Prabhu, we can say, then definitely the master will get pleased. The master will have a good mood and mission. He will come to know that this particular living has very good mood and mission to please me, to satisfy me. So he will in a subsequent in due course of time, eventually he expands the freedom of that particular living entity, because he comes to know that living entity is very loyal, and he wants to serve me. He wants somehow or other, at any distress of his material life, in spite of his distress in his material life, in spite of his reversal in his sadhana also, he is trying to please me and he is trying to dovetail his services to me. So then the master will free him. Like we can also say an example, another example, by if a very richest person is there, and if that richest person utilizes all his money only for his sense gratification or for his own self, then ultimately he will land up in a precarious condition, either by losing money, or someone will steal his money, or or it may land up in the situation one may try to kill him also, because to grab his money and property. So otherwise, if a living and if a richest man tries to uh, utilizes all his money for the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and for the service of serving the Vaishnavas or constructing temples or giving donation to the bona fide temples and for the bona fide devotees, to print more books and to distribute more books, so that the more books are printed and more messages are delivered, as Krishna says in 18th chapter Gita, that one who delivers my message to different living entities is very dear to me. In such a case, such a richest person who is a very exalted devotee, Krishna keeps him giving lot of property and lot of opulences, because Krishna knows very well that he is not going to misuse that money. So for those persons, Krishna gives lot of property and opulences, because he knows very well that he is not going to misuse it. He is not going to use it for his own sense gratification. So here in this particular verse, if a living entity, it is compared by, it is also Bhagavad Gita, Gita's quotation is also, sloka is also quoted here, that the material body, the super soul enters the material bodies of the created beings. That so like how another example is given in Gita, that like how air carries aroma from one place to the distant place. Similarly, the living entity also carries his good deeds, bad deeds, and accordingly he will get the next birth, the living entity. So if the living entity wants, he can change his body according to his according to his likes and dislikes. So if he wants, he can go to higher planets. If he wants, he can go to the lower planets also, according to the desires and according to the actions he has done in his previous life. Here in this verse, the Prabhu is mentioned because if the Prabhu is just like a child who gets the toy car and he keeps on pedaling in that toy car, imagining that like my father drives a car, similarly I am also driving a car. He thinks like that. But here the Prabhu indicates, but he is imitating his father. But the living entity pedals around the material universe in the innumerable material bodies selected for him by the Supreme Lord from an assortment of 84 lakhs of species. Thus, the living entity, infatuated with the false ego of the material body, creates fearful situations in which he undergoes repeated birth and death. So, like how the child imitates his father by driving the toy car and pedaling it. He keeps on pedaling from one planet to another planet, and higher planet to lower planet to middle planet, and middle planet to higher planet. He keeps on revolving, he keeps on pedaling around these planets by getting trapped in the repeated birth and death cycle. Because of Bhayam Abhiniveshatasya, it is mentioned in 11 to 37. This is another example is given, another illustration is also given by Jiva Goswami, that if the word Prabhu is taken to mean the Supreme Lord, so here Prabhu means also the living entity and also the Supreme Personality of God, because the Jiva is also the part and parcel of Supreme Personality of God. That is called the Atma and Anu Atma, and the Supreme Lord is called Paramatma. Sometimes the Supreme Lord is also attracted to the pure devotion qualities of the Supreme Lord, so he will accept or he will bound to please his devotees. For example, in Dwaraka, when Krishna wants to leave the planet, there was an appeal from Yudhishthira Maharaj to stay some more time. So Krishna, on the desire of Yudhishthira Maharaj, he stayed for a couple of weeks. Similarly, in Vrindavan also, elderly gopis of Vrindavan clapped their hands. So Krishna would dance like a puppet, keeping time to the rhythm. So in line 468 it said, Sadhuve hrudayam mahyam sadhunam hrudayam tuham madhyanate madanyate na jananti naham tebhyo managapi. That means a pure devotee always dwells in the heart of a Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead also dwells in the hearts of a pure devotee. Because because the devotees also do not know anything about, rather than Krishna, apart from Krishna, and Krishna also doesn't know anything about anything which is apart from devotees. So the Prabhu also indicates that pra means prakarshena or excessively. Bhu means bhavati or taking birth. So this Prabhu indicates prakashena deva triyak adishu bhavati sa, or repeatedly taking birth and among the demigods, animals, human beings and other forms of life. That is the another meaning of Prabhu. Repeatedly taking the birth of human beings, demigods, animals, etc., 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 in other forms of life. That is the meaning of one of the meaning of Prabhu, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Confirming the statement by Srila Jiva Goswami concerning the Lord's attachment to the spiritual body of a pure devotee, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also quoted the following verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita, that at the time of initiation, when a devotee fully surrenders unto the service of the Lord, Krishna accepts him to be good as himself. So here Krishna, Chaitanya, there is also another sloka quoted from Chaitanya Charitamrita, that at the time of initiation, if the devotee if the devotee is fully interested or fully having inclination towards Krishna consciousness, Krishna accepts him as good as himself. When the devotee's body is thus transformed into spiritual existence, and the devotee in that transcendental body renders service under the lotus feet of the Lord. Hare Krishna.